Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take a look at the Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe class Walgreens exclusive Medix. So let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. Is it a pickup or a pass? Now let's take a look at the figure's packaging. So here we have the packaging. Starting at the very front, we have Transformers on the side. We have the Legacy Evolution logo at the bottom of the box. We have Autobot Medix in white text with a white Autobot symbol. We have a really cool work shot of Medix in this kind of van truck alt mode. We have an open window displaying the figure in the packaging. We have another Legacy Evolution logo at the top of the box. If we do turn to the side, we have two really cool work shots of Medix in his robot mode. One more of a close-up of his head and chest, and one more of a wide shot of Medix with all of his weapons and accessories. On the back of the box, the figure transforms in 15 steps. There's a product shot of him and his robot, his Zell mode, and of course showing off his included Evo Fusion gimmick. And of course on the final side we do have half of the Legacy Evolution artwork, so if you do can enter the Deluxe from this Legacy Evolution line and put both boxes together, you can complete the artwork. And that is pretty much it for the packaging, so let's now get into the review. Here we have Medix in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with that Hesk with some really nice white for the face, some gray for the main helmet section, and some green for the crest, with some more green around this entire neck region here, with some white for the shoulders and some other parts of the neck as well, with some really cool kind of container boxes at the shoulders as well, with some black for the tires and the hand, with some more white at the forearm and some gray at the bicep. I do like this really cool kind of circular engine section here, really well sculpted and detailed on the chest in red, black, and green, with some more gray at the entire kind of stomach and crotch region, with some more white at the top of the legs, with some really nice glossy red and black for the front of the legs. I do like this really nice sculpt work there with some really cool panels and some compartments. And if we do look at the feet, mostly also done in black. And if we do look at the side of the legs, I actually do like kind of the back portion of the car sort of sits on the side of the leg there. Maybe people might consider it to be kibble. I actually think it looks kind of cool to have those boxes and that transparent blue plastic there. I think that looks really cool. And there's a bit of thin detailing on the back of the legs. There's actually a spare tire there as well. I think that looks pretty cool. And he does have a bit of a backpack. If you do have crankcase, you kind of know what to expect here. Honestly, as far as backpacks go, definitely not the worst I've seen. But as far as the back of the arms and the back of the legs are concerned, very little kibble to, I guess, no kibble. The only complaint for the backpack is it's actually very hollow. You know, as far as the backpack goes, it's really not that ugly, but they probably maybe could have compressed this and compacted against the figure a lot better, because there's a pretty big hollow space in there, and all they really need to do was maybe add an extra hinge and just kind of push it a bit more against the back of the figure, and then it wouldn't really just stick out as much. But overall, that is pretty much it for details. So now for articulation, if you do have pretty much any version or variation of this original Deluxe class Skids mold, you pretty much exactly know what to expect with this figure. So starting at these little turrets, they can actually hinge up and down. The head can look up and down and tilt side to side and look left to right. The arms can move out and in, forward and back. There is bicep rotation and elbow bends. There is also wrist rotation. If you do move the arms out of the way, there is a full functioning waist rotation all the way around, a really tight swivel. The legs can kick forward. They can kick back. Out to the side, there is rotation at the top of the leg, there is a really loose knee bend, and there is an ankle pivot to a very good degree. So overall, really good articulation. Unfortunately, tolerances are definitely probably one of the worst areas of this figure. Of all 5 versions or repaints of this mold, I think of my copies, Medix has to be the worst as far as tolerances goes, especially in these certain areas that I'm actually going to say right now. So definitely where these turrets are, if you actually do see them move up and down, it's because they're very, very loose. They really don't stay in one position that I want to set them in. Also, the head is actually quite loose on that ball joint. The knee bend here, or the top of the leg here, very loose as well. And the ankle pivot definitely could be tighter. But most of the other areas, like the arms, are actually perfect. Really nice and tight. The entire waist swivel, really nice and tight as well. Which is kind of a bit odd, you know, that just like certain random areas are tight and some are really loose. Typically, it's like, you know, some are tight, some are kind of in the middle. But it's kind of like the complete opposite. They're either really tight or really loose on this figure. I wouldn't say these joints are loose to the point, of course, where it cannot actually, you know, hold a pose or strike a pose. You know, it actually can hold a pose, but it can be a bit annoying at times. There is one last area I've yet to mention, the chest. Of course, not really a part of articulation. I just want to let you know it technically really doesn't tab into place. It kind of just rests there, and they're just kind of relying, I guess, on like friction just to keep it there, which was pretty much the same way as crankcase. There was no real tab or slot to actually keep it in place, but it was actually a lot better on crankcase. I really don't know why. I guess it's just kind of weird stuff, but yeah, it's way too loose. It should really tab into place better. Again, it can strike a pose, just especially where the knees are. That is just way too floppy in my opinion. A bit unfortunate with that. As far as accessories go, definitely one of the major pluses going for this figure. He comes with 5 accessories. Yes, you heard me right, 5. Typically, you really don't see that when it comes to Deluxes. Usually that might be a Voyager or later thing, and sometimes Commander class, but 5 accessories for a Deluxe. I think that's awesome. I actually really do like how they took accessories from several different figures and actually put it into the sphere. I think that's really cool and creative. So starting off with the first one, this actually did originally come with crankcase, which is, a good majority of this figure's mold. So overall, of course, as you can see, it does form the front grille section of the truck or car mode, which can actually also act as a blaster. I typically actually do store on the chest. We'll just show off in just a sec, but detail-wise, of course, you can see the headlights, the really cool kind of hook detailing. We actually do have the 2 posts as the barrels, which are blaster piece compatible, and overall, I think a pretty cool weapon. As for the next one, we actually do have this light bar piece, which did originally come with Minerva, and it's overall the same molding. I just think maybe the gray and the red are slightly a different shade, which this can actually store at the back of the figure back here, or you can leave it off to the side. Of course, that post and port system that just plugs into place like that. And as for the other accessories, here is this kind of blue blaster. I actually really do like this sort of transparent blue, which is also blaster piece compatible. If you have any version of the Skids mold, this looks probably very familiar to you. I'm pretty sure it's come with every single version so far, so a very common accessory. Also, the final 2 remaining ones are somewhat identical in design, slightly different in molding. They're the same 2 blasters that came with Minerva and Elita 1. Of course, this time just done that kind of transparent red, a different color from Minerva and the other figures, but overall, same molding. I think they look pretty cool. So the reason why I have not placed him on Medix just yet is there is actually technically an Evo Fusion gimmick. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work. I'll show you. So you actually do want to attach the 2 red accessories or the 2 red blasters like that, and you can actually get this small little blue blaster. This is supposed to attach pretty much sideways onto this smaller one, and then it's supposed to attach to this main one here, which interesting enough, they actually do not show the Evo Fusion gimmick on how it works or the steps of how to do it in the instruction booklet. The only way or the only time they actually reference his Evo Fusion gimmick is on the back of the box, which if you missed me taking a look at the packaging, of course, make sure you go back to that, and of course you can actually see it. But I did look at the instructions several times. They actually never show it or how to do it, so I'm really just going by that picture. And unfortunately, we're really supposed to, of course, use this post and this port, and it's really supposed to plug into place, but it doesn't really work. There is quite a few posts on the weapon, so I'm not really sure if it's supposed to sit further back or further forward, but either way, this weapon was not really built or made to actually tab into this weapon, because, of course, these weapons came with several different figures, so it really wasn't made to do that. So the connection is quite loose, and it really doesn't stay. Again, I'm not really sure which post or port they're expecting you to use, because there is 2, but either way, they're both loose and it just does not work. But it's technically supposed to attach like this, and of course, you're pretty much just supposed to stick all the blasters or weapons together, and this is the Evo Fusion gimmick, which is okay. I actually will give Hasbro some credit, because typically they actually don't give exclusive figures the gimmick, from the main line. Typically, like with Legacy, they really didn't give the Amazon exclusives or the Hasbro Pulse exclusives, their Energon infused weapons. Same goes for Legacy Evolution, the Evo Fusion gimmicks. They really didn't give much to any of the Amazon exclusives or the Hasbro Pulse exclusives, so it's actually pretty special they actually did it for this Walgreens one. Again, a good attempt, but these weapons were made at different times for different figures, so I really don't think they were made to actually attach. It sometimes stays, but typically it doesn't. But typically, even if it did, I'm going to store the weapons separately anyway. So typically what I do, this is my configuration or my placement of the weapons. I actually like to fold up that little piece there, actually attach it to the chest, so we actually have a proper, front grille piece there. This mostly is a feature for the alt mode, but I actually think that looks pretty cool in this mode. As for the 2 red weapons, I actually do keep these attached and attach them to the hands there. And I think that looks pretty cool like that. And the blue blaster will just store in the other hand. Of course, there is so many combinations and ways you can store these weapons. Again, there's 5 accessories, so it's really up to you how you want to display them. Of course, you could leave some off to the side. You could put all of them on like I did. Really up to you, but that is pretty much it for accessories. So now for some comparisons. Here it is with last year's Walgreens exclusive, that being Minerva. And I think they look pretty cool side by side. And as I said before, mold-wise, there are, no similarities in mold, but accessories, they actually do have some similarities. They both share that same light bar piece and the 2 blasters that are in Minerva's hand. And now for some mold comparisons, quite a few of them. Here he is with Skids, the original. I think they look pretty cool side by side. You can definitely tell some similarities where the arms are, the feet, the front of the legs, and a bit of the crotch and the top of the legs are. And for another mold comparison, here he is with Crankcase. They definitely share some more similarities, of course, between Medix and Skids. Of course, these two share quite a few, as you can see. Same chest accessories, same little pistol there. Pretty much the entire thing is the same, minus the head sculpt. That head sculpt actually does come from Burnout and Crosscut, which I'll actually bring in just a sec. But overall, pretty cool. Definitely, unfortunately, the tolerances are much better on Crankcase than Medix here. I don't know why. I guess that's just how it is. But here he is with Crosscut, another figure from this year. I'm pretty sure it was Legacy Evolution Wave 2. I think they look pretty cool. And he does share that same head sculpt, as you can see. And all the other similarities from Skids, as I mentioned before, pretty much are the same on this one. And for one final comparison, here he is with Burnout, a Walmart exclusive, the Velocitron line. And that is pretty much it for comparisons and this robot mode. Let's now get down to transformation. So now for transformation, what you want to do is go to the front of the legs, just hinge these panels out and down like that. You're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. There's actually 2 tabs on the inside of this leg, and there's corresponding slots on the other leg on the inside as well. You're just going to align that up and tab both of the legs into place like that. Make sure they're nice and compact and secure. You're actually going to go to the back of the figure, hinge the entire backpack section out. There is 2 tabs on both sides of the backpack, and there's corresponding slots on the actual back of the figure. You're actually going to hinge up this entire chest piece here until, of course, the head actually fills in that cavity that you saw before. One thing you definitely need to make sure of is these 2 turrets here. Make sure they're actually facing forward towards the windscreen. They'll actually slightly touch it. There's actually no tab and slot for them to be secure or actually locked into place. They kind of just rest there, but make sure they're facing forward, because if they actually do hinge back into this entire sort of space or backpack region, they'll actually get in the way of other areas of the transformation, because the entire waist and top of the leg region actually just fold into this entire backpack region, and if the blasters are back there, you actually won't be able to transform the figure. So just make sure they're facing forward, and all other areas of the transformation should be fine. And if you do flip to the underside here, you're just going to get this entire shoulder region and arm region. Just hinge this down and fold this in like that. Do the exact same thing on the other arm. You're just going to hinge this in like that. Then you're going to move the arms out of the way just for some added clearance. Of course, that's not really the permanent placement of them. We're actually going to go back to that a little bit later in the transformation. Then you can actually kind of push them up towards the main grill section there. As you can see, there's a slight cavity that will be filled in really quickly. Then you're going to get this entire waist section here. Just hinge this up, and that'll just fall into that cavity that I mentioned before. So just push that in as much as you can. As you can see, of course, there is 2 tabs on the back of the legs, and there are slots of this entire sort of back panel section, and that is just going to tab into place like that. So that'll just align up and tab into place like that. Then you're going to flip back to the underside. You're actually going to use the arms. There's these little clips pretty much where the chest region was, and there's slots on the underside of the arm. So those will just tab and clip into place like that. And then you're going to get this entire leg region here. Just hinge this all the way up like that. Make sure everything is nice and compact. Again, kind of push the arms up, the shoulders up to fill in that space. Then you're going to get the door wings, hinge these down to actually form, of course, the doors of the car, and those will clip into place like that. Same thing on their side, just those will just clip into place like that. And as you can see, of course, on the other side, there is actually wheels at the bottom of the feet. Those will just flip out and soft click into place. And that is pretty much it for transformation. But as you can see, of course, the alt mode is pretty incomplete. So I'm actually going to show the accessory storage right now, because some of them actually do play a pretty pivotal part in this alt mode. So one of them being the actual front grille section of the car. It actually does form a blaster for the remote mode, but of course, as it is right now, it's actually the front grille, which is actually really nicely detailed. There's kind of a hook there, some silver, some gray. I'll take a closer look at the details of the alt mode, of course, after I show off the accessory storage. So it's that post-import system that's just going to plug into place like that. I think that looks pretty cool. As for another one that's pretty important a part of this mode, it's actually the entire light bar piece. There is actually, again, that post and port system, and that will just plug on top like that. And those are pretty much it for the accessories that actually have a specific placement and place on this alt mode. As for all the weapons and, of course, the blasters, that's pretty much entirely up to you how you want to display them. I typically actually do leave one of them off to the side, because the space or the areas where we can actually put it just don't look as good as the other ones. So for the two blasters that I actually do store on this mode, they're actually the 2 two somewhat, I guess, identical, somewhat different weapons. Of course, both have that sort of transparent red design, but are slightly different in mold. We can actually store these at that back with a post and a port system. This is really how I like to display them. Of course, you can really do whatever configuration you like best. I actually kind of like how they somewhat stick out from the back. I think that looks pretty cool. So as for the final one, is this kind of blue blaster, which I typically do leave off to the side because how the instructions show it is actually storing it on top of the light bar piece. Some also have done it where you actually remove the light bar piece and attach the blaster there, which both those configurations I never really like. So I typically do just put this off to the side because this is definitely my preferred configuration. And that is pretty much it for accessory storage. Let's now take a look at the details. Here we have Medix in his alt mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very front, we have some really nice silver for these headlights in the front grille section with a really cool kind of wire and hook detailing sculpted in, done in gray, with a very classic setup symbol done in red with some really nice kind of lime green for this entire front hood section with some white as well. I do like the transparent blue plastic for the entire windscreen and window section. I'm not a big fan though of seeing this huge hinge in the turrets there. It looks a bit ugly to me. It would have been nice if it was a bit more tinted so you can see all that kibble on the inside, but I do like the transparent blue. I think that looks really cool. I do like the really cool kind of medical, little lines on the sides and the really cool kind of compartments or boxes done in red. With the tires, actually the back tires are pinned on wheels, which is really good to see. Unfortunately, the front ones are still mushroom, but hey, I think we're getting there. Still 2 pinned wheels on Deluxe is really good to see. Of course, we do have the little light bar, kind of little ambulance light on the top done in red and gray, looking very cool there. We do the 2 blasters on the back. Of course, I already did show and cover accessory storage, so do keep in mind if you wanted to make this alt mode look a bit more plain, you could remove some of these pieces. And if we do flip to the back, we actually do have a spare tire on the entire back bumper done in gray with a really cool kind of cool exhaust pipes also done in white. I think overall this is a pretty fun alt mode. So as far as rolling goes, I think it rolls pretty well, definitely with help of those pinned wheels. So now for some comparisons, here he is with the original Deluxe class skids. As you can see, overall I would say the shape, there is some similarities, but there's actually quite a few mold changes, but they look very cool side by side. And please do let me know in the comment section below of all 5 versions or variations of this mold, which one is your favorite. I think I'm probably tied between Medix and maybe Crankcase. I think they just really did a good job with this mold, this retool, or this repaint from the original Deluxe class skids. What makes me kind of iffy about Medix is of course all the tolerance problems, but design wise I really do like his design. And speaking of Crankcase, here he is with Crankcase. I think they look pretty cool side by side. And that is pretty much it for comparisons. Now, typically I would do reverse transformation, but since there is like 5 versions of this mold, I've transformed this mold back and forth a lot on this channel, so I really don't think it's necessary. But if you do want to see a transformation of Medix from alt mode to, of course, robot, I actually already do have a how to transform video up on my channel right now showing that, and I will leave a link to that in the description down below. That is pretty much it for this alt mode. Let's now get down to the final thoughts. So now for the final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Walgreens exclusive Medix. I think this is a really good figure. I do have a few problems, which I'll get into in just a sec, but actually discussing the mold and its origins, of course, what pieces are coming from what other figures. Medix here has actually kind of emerged pretty much all the other repaints and variations of this mold so far. There's been a total of 5 repaints and retools of the original Legacy Deluxe Class Skids mold, which I think overall is a pretty fun figure and a really pretty good mold. I do have a few problems with the original molds, but I think it's overall pretty good, decent deluxe. So Medix here actually just share quite a few pieces of Crankcase, Skids, Burnout. Let's get into it. So of course the head sculpt for Medix actually does come from Burnout. They also did use the same head sculpt with Crosscut. Earlier I think it was in the Legacy Evolution Wave 2 line that was one of the deluxes, so we've also had another use of that head sculpt. The entire front chest and set of the legs and the backpack pretty much come from Crankcase, and I'd say mostly where the feet and the arms are concerned, you can definitely tell a lot of those pieces come with the original Legacy Deluxe Class Skids. So it's kind of a merge of pretty much all those other variations and versions of these Skids molds so far, pretty much put into one figure, which is pretty interesting. I actually kind of like it when they do that. As for the accessories, it's actually kind of the same case. So the entire front grille, chest blaster came from Crankcase. This is the only other time they've actually used it, because pretty much all these versions, all 5 versions of the Legacy Deluxe Class Skids, they pretty much share, some mold or some accessory, but but so far, the only other way you can get that blaster is crankcase, so it's kind of a specific, share in mold or shared in accessory. He also does come with that sort of blue blaster, which I'm pretty sure has come with every single version of this mold so far, so I really wouldn't say that's that special. As for the 3 remaining accessories, they actually did take the 3 remaining accessories with the past Walgreens exclusive from last year, the Legacy Deluxe Class Minerva, which, truth be told, I actually probably do like this Walgreens exclusive more than that one, but they actually did take the light bar piece and the 2 transparent red blasters from that figure, and of course put it with this. The color of the blasters is different. I'm pretty sure there was one clear and one blue with Minerva. This time, of course, they are both red. Also, the light bar piece is the same molding, of course. I just think the shade of red might be slightly different. I think it might be slightly darker on this one and slightly lighter on the Minerva figure. As far as the entire, figure of the deco goes, I actually really do like it. I do like the continuing chain of these Walgreens exclusive, trying to do sort of kind of medic or sort of emergency type vehicles and decos, like they did in Siege. They did Ratchet in Kingdom. They did Red Alert. They also did a Minerva. I actually kind of like this. I do like the whole medic type, exclusive thing, but I'm not really liking how they're actually doing Walgreens exclusives, because they're actually very hard to track down. I would be fine if, they kind of had the same amount of stock as like Target, because we do Target exclusives, several Target exclusives every year, but they're actually really not that hard to track down. Yes, occasionally it can be quite tough, but it's a lot easier to get a Target exclusive than a Walgreens exclusive, because of all the years they've actually been doing these Walgreens exclusive, I've actually never gotten a single one from Walgreens. I've always had to get them from online other toy retailers or eBay. This is actually one of those situations, Medix here, where I actually got it from an online toy retailer. If you're wondering where, I'll actually put the link to where in the description. Of course, not sponsored or affiliated, just trying to help you out. Do keep in mind it was a tad bit overpriced, but that's always how I've done it. I did the same thing, with Red Alert, Ratchet, Minerva. It's always ended up that way. I've never actually found one in person at Walgreens or online. It's just how it's happened. As for the figure itself, I actually do like the deco. I really do like the blue, the white. I do like the interesting kind of green. All the accessories can actually store in the figure in several different ways. And interesting, that this figure actually does have an Evo Fusion gimmick, which is pretty cool. I actually sort of came up with one for this figure, because typically with the exclusive figures like Amazon exclusive, Target exclusives, Walgreens exclusive, pretty much any of them, they typically really don't come up with a separate, Evo Fusion gimmick for them. Typically that's really only for the mainline, which this is not. Technically it's not really the most interesting Evo Fusion gimmick. You pretty much just kind of merge or kind of attach all the weapons together, which is still kind of nice how they actually thought of one. Of course, they could have been cheap and just put no effort into it at all. They could have just said, oh, the Evo Fusion gimmick is putting the weapon in his hand, but they actually came up with a way where you can actually attach all the accessories, which is pretty nice, which I did show off at one point in this review. So of course, if you missed that, make sure you go back in the review and check that out. It should be in the early half of the review. As for my problems with this figure, unfortunately, of all 5 variations or versions of the Skids mold, I definitely think Medix probably has the worst tolerances of all of them. Of my copies, of course, it could be completely different for you guys. Maybe Medix could be the best of the tolerances of all 5 versions. It could be the worst like me. I really do not know, but the tolerances are pretty bad. I do have to say, I don't want to discourage you from getting this figure, because it's a really good figure, and it could just be my copy. I really do not know. I've watched several other reviews of this figure. No other person or reviewer has actually complained about the tolerances as much as I have. So the main areas where the joints are actually very loose are actually at the knees, the ankle pivot, and the chest. So the entire chest region actually really doesn't tab into place. There is no lock or slot or tab. That was the same case with Crankcase, because of course they do share that same chest piece. It's the same mold, the same piece, of course, just a different deco. Interesting enough, there was actually a bit of kind of, I guess they were really just relying on friction, or I guess just the amount of space. It was just supposed to kind of just slide into place and just sort of soft click into place. And Crankcase, his chest actually does stay. It doesn't actually flop or move as much as Medix here, which is a bit weird. I really think they probably should have put a tab and slot, because if you do look at the other versions or variations of this mold, like Skids, Crosscut, Burnout, those actually do have a tab and slot. That being said, their chest mold is different. It's not the same as Crankcase or Medix. But honestly, I just think it should be really a given for any mold. If the chest panel or any part of the chest does flip up, there should be a tab to go with it, so of course it can actually be secure in the remote mode. It does get a bit irritating. I wouldn't really say it flaps up, all too much, but when you're trying to pose the figure, it can be a bit annoying. As for the legs, where the knee is concerned, it is so loose. It's actually not to a point where, of course, the figure will fall back, but definitely when you're posing the figure and picking it up, you can definitely tell at the knee it's very loose. The ankle pivot probably is, I would say, not as bad as the other joints, but it is still way too loose for my liking. As for the arms and the shoulders are concerned, they're actually not too bad. So, unfortunately, I do have a few kind of, tolerance QC problems here and there. It's good there is breakage issues or stress marks. That's always good to see and hear, but definitely could be better where these joints are. If you do like to modify your toys, maybe if you had this, same problem, maybe you could possibly fix it. I typically don't modify my toys, and even if I like to, I wouldn't even know where to begin or how to fix some of these problems. So maybe if you do, maybe you could fix these problems. I would be really, I would be happy if that was a possibility. Hopefully it's just my copy. I really don't know. As for transformation, it's the exact same thing as crankcase, and even if you've never got crankcase, if you do have skids, burnout, crosscut, it's pretty much the same thing. The only main changes between Medix here and, say skids is really where the backpack and the chest region are. Pretty much where the legs and the arms are concerned, all of that is the same, which is a pretty major part of the transformation. As for the element, I actually do like the colors. The really nice transparent blue, all the whites, the green. I just think it's a really fun figure. I actually really like the inclusion of pinned wheels. That's always really good to see on a deluxe. I'm pretty sure only 2 of them pinned. The other 2 are mushroom peg, but hey, even 2 is really good to see on a deluxe. I hope maybe they can actually set the standard like Beachcomber did, where all of the wheels of deluxes can actually be pinned from now on. I think that'd be awesome to see. As for accessory storage, I actually do like how you can store them pretty much in several different ways. There's so many accessories. That is one thing that I really do like about Medix over the past Walgreens exclusive. He comes with 5 accessories. That being said, of course, they are shared accessories with other figures, but 5 accessories for a deluxe is pretty good. You typically don't get to say that much for a deluxe, so that's really good to see with this figure. I do hope maybe future Walgreens exclusives and other just mainline deluxes can have that many accessories in the future. That'd be really good to see. But I do like the alt mode. I really wouldn't say it's anything special. It's pretty much the exact same thing as crankcase, Mostly, I would say the most interesting mode is probably the remote mode because it shares so many pieces from other figures. In the alt mode, of course, you really just think, oh, that's a crankcase repaint. But in the remote mode, you're like, wow, this shares pieces and things from so many other figures. But I really do hope you enjoyed this review, of course. Please do let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section below. Will you be picking it up or will you be passing on it? Actually, please do let me know in the comments. Do you have any of these same sort of, tightness or tolerance problems as me? Hopefully not. I do hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.